And I would like now, we will proceed with a paper from a dear colleague from the People's Republic of China. She comes from Hebei Normal University. Zheng will be speaking on the integration and development of tradition, modernity, and gender philosophy. Please, you have 20 minutes for speaking. And if you exceed 20 minutes, there will not be time for discussion or for questions. At 30 minutes exactly, we must terminate because we have another session to broadcast. Please welcome Zheng from Hebei Normal University, the People's Republic of China. Thank you very much.
My speech is integration and the development of the tradition, modernity, and Zheng philosophy, reflection on Chinese traditional culture. It have 5 parts. 1, tradition, modernity, and Zheng consciousness. 2, the different construction of Zheng in Chinese traditional cultural philosophy. 3, critics and sublation. Chinese culture in the jaws and contribution of the contemporary of the feminist culture. 4, conflict and transcendence, conflict, connection, and transcendence between Chinese and Western cultures. 5, ethical dilemma of the modern night is construction and the future development of Zheng relations. Because the time limit and so much content, so my speech is some glass shows and not all reading. Please understand. Existence and gender philosophy and understands and interprets the accent word from its origin. There is no doubt that the beings are all in it. Some acceptance and ignorant for the acceptance value hurting readers in the apparent identities, where others are hidden in the historic phenomena and errors without being valued and recognized. The acceptance of any historic errors and the phenomena, whether it is the development of the socialization or the organization of the daily life, must be brought with the acceptance. Look back the historical philosophy from the perspective of Zheng, the world of the acceptance recorded history with the human abstract concept in ancient time, which was not Zheng specific. The prominence of the Zheng history is the matter since the modern time. However, it is indisputable fact that both Zheng constitute the new acceptance in the world of the acceptance and show their life significance and social value in time as acceptance, but both explicit and implicit identities are constructed in the development of the cultural philosophy. 1, tradition, modern night, and Zheng consciousness. The development of the contemporary Zheng philosophy is in the following origins and the referential background. One, tradition and the Zheng consciousness. 1, 2, 3. 2, modernite perspective. 3, mutual mirror of the East and Western cultures. 1, the beginning of the tradition, abstract the concept of the Zheng. This is the embodiment of metaphysical and classical experience. This ancient thinking is the entity of human without Zheng consciousness. 2, the traditional transformation of Western philosophy. The subject as consciously awakening and established. As Kang De said, judge everything with their own reason. In this way, the main entities mostly refer to men, the more as the idea that male history determines everything for a long time. 2, the tradition for transformation of the West philosophy. Tradition changes from the 18th and 17th and 18th. The awakened and established. Yes, next. Although she is confined to previous life in traditional philosophy and endured with emotional animals instead of the relational existence, the awakening of the reason means that is no longer a positive being and the true liberation of the woman begins. Yes. However, since the modern time, women's awakening has no completely entered in the development of the exciting history and in the contraction of the historic foreign side history is still so heavy, which requires us to reflect deeply on the history of the philosophy and the culture and the broken historical changes. Just like before, women are not born but acquired. There's the cognition is the philosophical enlightenment and awakening of the Zheng and in the background of the modern philosophy. For a long time, the dichotomy of the Zheng has caused the neglect of the women. 113, traditional Zheng is defined in philosophy and culture, in the field of the thinking, in the field of the ethical life. However, such connection doesn't lie outside the existence, but only in the existent, whether male and female, complete such cognition and change consciously and autonomously. The word of the existence rejected hatred with the abstract concept of the human being in ancient times, not gender. And the highlight of the gender hatred is the matter modern time. However, both explicit and implicit identities are contraction in the development of the cultural philosophy. 1, 2, modernity perspective. One, two. From the female studies to gender studies, it makes gender studies have different concerns and characteristics on different historical and cultural background in the East and West. The perspective of this study is equally important for the study of women in China. 3. The dilemma of the development of the gender ethics in Western philosophy. The core content of the ethics of the Western gender philosophy. 2. Dilemma in the Western gender ethics. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3. Mature mirror of the Eastern and Western culture. Just as we mentioned earlier, the cult of the Western modernization of our mirror image, there is no common root of the human exploration, but also the unequal cultural characteristics and historical experience of the different contents and relation narratives. This 1. Next 2, the different construction of the gender in Chinese traditional cultural philosophy. About Zhou Yi, about Confucian culture, about Dao culture, about Buddhism culture. First 1, the view of the gender in Zhou Yi Zhuan, the way of acceptance of heaven and earth, and the view of the yin yang in the book of changes, the origin of the gender culture and the construction of the Confucianism and the Daoism culture by the ancient yin yang, yin origin and the yin yang. 2, Dao and Qian Kun gender. Heaven and the earth have a gender orientation. Heaven and earth have the moral orientation. The other of the human relations is beginning to appear. Dao and Qian Kun gender. First, second, third. 3, 2, 2, 1, 3, yin yang and the thinking method. The dualism of the yin yang in heaven and earth. The harmony of the yin yang in heaven and earth. 2, the Confucian of the gender in construction of the gender in Confucian culture. And the background of the Confucian structure, the agrarian society, the gender culture of the family and the social moral is attached to the core of the family ethic. 2, the spiritual temperament of the Confucianism, the realization of the human value in ethic relations. 3, gender relations. 1, 2, 3. 3, the construction of gender in Dao culture. The philosophy Newman and the value system opposite to confucianism, neutral Taoism and low neutral, return to and cut gene and return to the truth, two different spiritual climate between Taoism culture and the Confucian culture. 3. Contraction of the gene in Tao. 3. The different of the gene concept in philosophical culture. Lao Tzu said, one yin and one yang is the way. 4. Theory of the equality of things. 庄子齐物论. 齐物论. 4. The contraction of the gene in Buddhism culture about harmony of the course of reason and middle way. 2. The concept of the equality. 3. Critique and sublimation. Chinese culture encounters the joys and the contribution of the contemporary feminist culture. 3.1. Critique and the tradition Confucian culture. 1. The history review of the Confucian gene construction. 2. Reflection and the criticism and the social gene system. 3. Reflection and the emanation of the cultural foundation of family ethics. The mania refers to the disadvantages caused by the dysfunction of the women in the family ethical system. 4. The concept reviews in gene country requires the modern interpretation of the Confucian gene system culture in the gene real for second, third. 3.2. The contribution of the Taoism and the Buddhism culture to gene equality. 1. Social and the historic background. 2. 这个就不说了啊，就是the contribution of the Taoist and the Buddhist culture to gene equality. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Look at the glass. 4. Conflict and transcendence. Conflict, connection, and the transcendence between Chinese and Western cultures. 1. The way of the yin-yang in China. The way of the neutralization and the way of the gene equality. 2. Taoist culture. Nature loving of everything, equality of all things. 4. Advocating the value of the middle way in Zen Buddhism. This way, middle way, the thinking in the way of the thinking in the middle way can correct the shortcomings of the critic thinking to governance and lead people out of the predicament of the modernity. It can correct the extreme traditionalism and rationalism in the way of the thinking, the mistaking and the methods of the dialectic. In short, the middle way thinking is the contemporary value and is the new perspective for human things to solve many contemporary problems, including gene dilemma. Well, divided in the three of the Taoism value. Laozi said Dao gave birth to one, to two, to three, and to three, and to anything. But the three meanings can be ignored only with the three harmony and the opposites in the world. 5. Chinese and Western culture, concept and thinking method, different part lead to the same destination. Five, the ethical dilemma of the modernity is contraction and in the future development of the gender relations. 1, the dilemma and the root modernist essence. 2, new method to deal with the misunderstanding of the value orientation of the traditional ethics. 1 is draw of the methodology of the Buddhist middle way. 2, we propose the new ethic named the ethic of the observation. This 3, the antagonism, transcendence, and restoration of gender relations or harmoniously in life. On the contrary, both Eastern and Western culture have excellent outward resource about way of life. This is the orange intention of the philosophical and the cultural thinking, as well as the ultimate consent for human being, the world of the men and women. Of course, is also the ultimate content for the field idea development of the gender philosophy. That is to say, to enable men and women to have an open and free thinking perspective, to create an open view and comfortable world in the knowledge of their characteristic, so that they can get their own obsession, do their best, and enjoy themselves. That's all. If there are many mistakes in paper, please give more guidance.
Thank you very, am I on mic? Thank you so much, Zheng.